Welcome to The Explainer. So today, we're looking at an absolutely incredible ancient story from the Bhagavatada Purana. And honestly, this is practically guaranteed to completely flip how you view learning, education, and just your daily life. If you've ever felt like true wisdom is locked away in some distant monastery, or maybe buried in a totally confusing, heavy textbook, well, prepare to have your mind changed. We're going to explore a narrative that takes the absolute deepest philosophical truths and drops them right into your living room, your morning commute, and your everyday struggles.
Okay, let's dive into this. Our story kicks off with this really fascinating encounter out in a forest. Think about King Yadu for a second. Now, King Yadu represents what pretty much all of us are taught, right? That the formula for happiness is all about acquiring things. Wealth, power, family, outward success, the whole shebang. But then he meets this young sage, and this sage has literally nothing. No possessions, no disciples, no kingdom, not even a house. Yet he is radiating this intense, undeniable joy and peace. The king is totally baffled. He looks at this young guy who has absolutely nothing and essentially asks, "How on earth are you so blissful?"
And the sage's answer is just startling. He tells the king, "Well, I have learned from 24 gurus." Now, you can imagine the king looking around this completely empty forest, totally confused, because there isn't another human being anywhere in sight. And that's when the sage drops this profound realization. Nature itself became my teacher. He reveals that his 24 gurus aren't actually people at all. They're the universe itself, the elements, the animals, just everyday human interactions. These are the teachers that gave him his incredible inner peace.
All right, let's look at the first set of gurus, wisdom from the elements, which is the foundation of the sage's teachings.
Let's see how this builds, because it's a really cool way to look at the world. Think about the earth. It gets stepped on, dug up, exploited every single day, yet it just patiently continues to support us. It literally teaches us patience and service even when life feels completely unfair. Then consider the sky. Storms rage, clouds come and go, birds fly all over it, but the sky itself, it remains totally untouched. This is such a powerful reminder that your true core self is completely untouched by temporary emotional storms. Then you've got water, which teaches us to be adaptable. It takes the shape of whatever container it's in while staying pure. And fire? Well, fire consumes whatever you throw into it, but it just remains fire. It teaches us how to process life's messy experiences without becoming overly attached to them. And this brilliantly illustrates our next element, the ocean. As the sage notes, thousands of rivers enter the ocean, yet it neither overflows with pride nor dries up in disappointment. Just think about how relevant that is for us today. When things go great, we tend to completely overflow with ego, and when things fail, we dry up in despair. But the ocean receives a constant massive influx of water, enough to fill millions of swimming pools, and its level just remains steady. It's the ultimate lesson in maintaining your emotional baseline and staying perfectly balanced during the absolute extremes of success and failure.
Moving along, we shift from the elements to the animal kingdom for nature's warnings, the traps of desire and anxiety.
Have you ever thought of a python as a life coach? Probably not, right? But the sage did. A python is this massive creature, but it doesn't sprint around frantically trying to secure its next meal. It stays grounded. It just accepts what comes to it. Think about our modern hustle culture for a second. We are constantly running, endlessly anxious about our 5-year plans, our investments, what happens next. The python is nature's direct warning to us that excessive anxiety about the future will utterly destroy your peace in the present. Sometimes you just have to trust the process and accept what arrives.
Then we have the moth. And wow, this is one of the most stark, immediate warnings in nature. A moth is so blindly captivated by the bright, shiny light of a flame that it rushes straight into it and dies. It's a really vivid, slightly tragic metaphor for human behavior, actually. Uncontrolled attraction can so quickly become self-destruction. Whether it's a toxic habit, an unhealthy relationship, or just blindly chasing status, rushing toward the things we desire without any self-awareness is incredibly dangerous. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast it sets up. It's kind of a bait and switch. First, the sage points to the honeybee. The bee flits from flower to flower, taking just a tiny bit of nectar from a bunch of different sources. The lesson? Gather knowledge widely. Don't rely on just one source. Learn from everywhere. Beautiful, right? But then, the sage points to the honey collector. This person comes along and in one single moment steals the entire lifetime of the bee's hard work. It's a super sobering warning. You can spend your entire life hoarding wealth and stuff, but it can literally all vanish in an instant. The takeaway is, seek knowledge, absolutely, but don't obsess over hoarding possessions. Now let's move into our final thematic group, focus and the human mind, lessons from everyday people.
So our next guru is simply a child. Think about how a toddler operates. They live entirely in the present moment. If they're happy, they laugh easily. If they're upset, they cry, sure, but then they let it go almost immediately the second something new catches their eye. The sage observed this and realized a huge truth. We are actually born knowing how to be present. We are born knowing how to let things go. Overthinking, that is a learned behavior. Much of our adult suffering comes purely from our own overactive, ruminating minds.
Consider this quick story about a young maiden. She's home alone, preparing food for some unexpected guests. Now her wrists are covered in these traditional bangles, and as she works, they are clinking loudly together. It's super noisy, it's distracting, and she's feeling embarrassed by all the racket she's making. So what does she do? She removes all the bangles, except one on each wrist. And instantly, there is silence. There's peace. Think of those clinking bangles like the constant pings of your smartphone, the endless group chats, or just general social media burnout. Too much company, too many voices, and too much input just create unnecessary conflict and noise in our heads. Sometimes you just need to strip it back to one quiet bangle.
And speaking of blocking out the noise, look at the arrow maker. This craftsman was working on making a single arrow, and he was so completely dialed into his work, so hyper-focused, that a literal king's procession, we're talking elephants, drums, massive crowds, passed right by him, and he didn't even look up. He didn't even notice it. The sage saw this and realized that deep, laser-focused concentration isn't just a good productivity skill, it's a spiritual superpower. It allows you to tune out the total chaos of the world and find stillness in literally whatever you are doing.
Which brings us right back to our framing story, and the final section, the ultimate secret to wisdom, and King Yadu's final question.
So the king is looking at the sage. He's just heard about pythons and water and arrow makers and the sky, and he asked the exact question that we're all probably thinking right now. What is the greatest lesson among all these? Like, which of these 24 gurus holds the actual master key to your incredible joy?
And the sage's response? Well, so the crucial point is this quote right here. The sage, often called the Avadhuta, replies, "Everything can teach you if your ego does not prevent you from learning." Talk about a mic drop, right? The greatest lesson isn't the python or the ocean or the child. The greatest lesson is that the difference between seeing just a random bird and seeing profound wisdom is simply your own awareness. It's your humility. If you drop your ego, the whole entire world becomes your classroom.
To really summarize this whole paradigm shift, think about the traditional question most of us ask. We ask, who should be my teacher? We look for a guru, a professor, a specific self-help book, or a leader to just hand us the answers. But the Avadhuta completely flips the script. He asks, how can I become a student of life? Because when you ask that question, every single daily experience, whether it's incredibly painful or wonderfully pleasant, instantly transforms into a source of wisdom. Wisdom isn't hidden away in some remote monastery. It is hidden right in plain sight.
Which leaves us with this final thought. It's a challenge, really. Will you keep looking outward for that one perfect teacher, that one perfect moment where it all magically makes sense? Or will you take a page out of the sage's book, lower your ego, and become a true student of life right here, right now? The choice is entirely yours, and those 24 gurus, they're waiting for you right outside your door. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really, really hope this inspired you to look at your